What I tell people is that we don't really work with money, we work with people. And people have things that they want to do in their life. They have worries, things that keep them up. They think about their kids, their neighbor. There's just so much going on in our world.
Yeah.
And to recognize that and to empathize and have compassion. I often tell people, the difference between empathy and compassion is that if you were my patient, Kelly, holding your hand with empathy is not going to save your life.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Don't Do That podcast. I'm your host, Kelly Waltrich. Today is a special one. Most of you that know me know that I'm not a gushy person, but if there's anybody to be gushy about in this industry, it's Patti Brennan. She is the CEO of Key Financial. She's an amazing woman. And if I read you the accolades that she has, not to embarrass you, Patti, but it is sort of crazy. She is a best-selling author. She won Entrepreneur of the Year. She is a Forbes Top Woman Advisor in the Barron's Hall of Fame. The list goes on and on and on and on. It's truly amazing, Patti. Welcome.
Well, to me, Kelly, the accolade is that I ended up being invited to the Don't Do That Kelly Waltrich podcast. This is an accolade. This is a great opportunity and a wonderful honor to be with you today.
You are the sweetest. So, guys, Patti and I go way back. So as you guys know, one of my first I think the first big career move I had was at eMoney Advisor. And we had what I believe to be one of the best advisory boards I have ever seen. Still to this day, I try to get firms to build strong, thoughtful, real, impactful advisory boards. And it's just not done as well as I think we had it figured out back then. Patti, let's talk a little bit about our eMoney days, which is what, 15 years ago at this point.
And that advisory board was phenomenal. What I loved about it is we all came to those meetings within the spirit of being constructive. It wasn't a complaint session. It was, Kelly, it would be, what you have is amazing. It would be wonderful if you guys could figure out a way to do A, B, and C. And the feedback that you provided to us was, and the things that I thought were really easy were really hard to code. And the things that I thought would be impossible were like, yeah, that's a no-brainer. We'll have that out in the next release.
Yeah.
So it was a great exchange, recognizing that we were in this together. And then I think that really worked well.
Yeah. And it's funny. I think a lot of people look at financial planning today and the tools and technologies that exist, and they don't know the faces behind the true innovation. People like you, I remember Omani Carson and so many others like on that advisory board, truly in the weeds of figuring out the future of financial advice. And let's be honest, not much has changed in that world. Go forward 15 years. That product has stayed tried and true.
And, to your point, it's so interesting because it was such an amazing system, eMoney Advisor. We still use it to this day. I think you guys called us power users.
Yes.
It was the hub. That was our platform and everything fed into that. It's not done enough now. And some of the partnerships that we have with other vendors, it's not as rich.
Yeah.
So thank you for that. And I will also tell you from an advisor's perspective, I learned so much in those meetings. I had a sidebar conversation with a person that you know very well and I know very well, who taught me something that I just didn't know. Because as you know, Kelly, I used to be an ICU nurse.
Yeah.
I have no background in business. I was clueless and still am to this day. To a certain extent, it's just by listening to people, other colleagues, people like you, and implementing the ideas that I thought would work for us. And I learned about something called scale. How crazy is that? I didn't know what scale was. And this gentleman explained to me, when you're managing a business, you want to get scale. The only scale I know about was what I learned in chemistry, right? Because I had to take chemistry.
Yeah.
So it was such a great opportunity to collaborate with other like-minded professionals.
Yeah. I mean, I think for those of you listening, it's so important to have a board of people that you can bounce ideas off of and people who come from different backgrounds and have different perspectives. I feel like I miss that. I feel like eMoney did it shout out to the folks at eMoney, all the eMoney alumni listening to this. I think we have a strong eMoney alumni following here. Those were the good old days. I like to think about that a lot.
And we can use that idea in our own businesses to improve our own businesses, which
Yeah.
actually leads to my don't do that
Ooh.
idea for you.
Okay, well, we'll get to that in a second. So the next thing I wanted to talk about, and you kind of alluded to it, was being an ICU nurse.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
that's one of my favorite things about your background. I want you to just give everybody sort of a little bit of a glimpse into that and how that guided the way you built your financial business.
Kelly, it's interesting. You mentioned my book. The name of the book is Am I Going to Be Okay? And Is Okay Enough?
Yeah.
Because what I tell people is that we don't really work with money, we work with people. And people have things that they want to do in their life. They have worries, things that keep them up. They think about their kids, their neighbors. There's just so much going on in our world.
Yeah.
And to recognize that and to empathize and have compassion. I often tell people, the difference between empathy and compassion is that if you were my patient, Kelly, holding your hand with empathy is not going to save your life. Compassion is action oriented. Yes, I understand your heart is about to stop. You're running, you're having a crazy rhythm on the screen, but I've got to have compassion to know what's normal for you. Go to the syringes that are to the left of your monitor, put it in your IV because I don't have time to call a doctor. I have to care enough to know what's going to fix the problem at hand and then do it.
Mhm.
That's what we do as advisors. So it's holistic. We're dealing with cash flow and taxes and portfolios and insurance and wills and trusts, and to understand the whole person and pull it all together holistically is
Yeah.
what we get to do. It's very similar skill sets.
Yeah. It's so true. I just went to a roundtable. Adam Holt from Asset Map held an influencer roundtable in Philadelphia a couple weeks ago. And the question that he posed to all of us was, what does financial planning look like 5 years from now? And I sat and I listened to everybody. And I can tell you that the majority of people believe that the future of financial advice is just what you just described. It is being more holistic, focusing more on wellness, focusing more on behavioral aspects of the relationship. And so I feel like you've been saying this all along, Patti. So maybe you were just ahead of the game. But give me a sense of do you see the rest of the industry shifting in the right direction?
It's very interesting. I'll tell you a story. I was giving a talk to a huge audience of wirehouse people, et cetera, at one of the Forbes, Barron's conferences. And, Kelly, it was a surreal moment. I got to tell you, because I was really nervous. I'm like, what am I doing up on the stage? And I don't remember saying this, but I said something to the effect of, you guys, because as you know, it's mostly men in our industry, even today,
Yep.
you guys charge way too much money and you do way too little work for your clients.
Yeah.
But please keep on doing it because all your clients are coming to me. That was a wake up call. I got to tell you, I got so much feedback. I got so many emails from that because it's true. It's people really, people are not their portfolios. They're not a pie chart. I tell them all the time, don't let anybody treat you like a pie chart. You're not. You are a family. You've worked your tails off your entire life, had many sleepless nights. You have things that you want to do, people that you worry about, causes that you believe in. Let's talk about those things because that's what really matters. The fact is, your money is a means to an end. What are we trying to accomplish for the rest of your life?
Beautiful. So I had a chat with Penny Phillips. I don't know if you saw that Don't Do That, but we talked a lot about we both have young daughters.
Yeah.
Mine is 3, so I got a long way to go. However, we talked about would we want our daughters in the industry? And I feel like that's an interesting question for you because you've got one and she's awesome and she's crushing it and doing great things. So give me a sense of what is that what does that look like for your family? What does it mean to have a daughter in the industry? Does she bring you different views and perspectives? Do you have a leg up in fintech because she's sits
Oh,
in that seat? What does that look like for you?
oh, Kelly, boy. Well, I will tell you what it looks like. She slaps me around a lot. Mom, you can't say that. Mom, your emails are way too long. Mom, this. She is truly a rock star. The company that she works for loves her. They're giving her promotions. She's doing really well. And what I appreciate about my Kelly is that she's very clear and poised
Yep.
and really knows how to hold her own, and that I'm so proud of. I don't know how she became who she is today.
I think I can
Um,
figure it out.
but she's really, really well respected, especially for a young woman in her early 30s. It's
Yeah.
really cool. So who knows what her path is going to be? Ideally I wanted my kids to have other experiences. I have a son in my business currently. I've got another daughter who helps us with our communications. So it's, you know, I don't really mandate anything. You go do your thing, and we did our part, and follow your own paths.
Yeah. It's great. I think it's fun to watch her from afar. We try to keep tabs on all our eMoney people, and she seems to be doing great. So I'm really excited for her.
Thank you, Cal.
Okay, so future of financial services. We talked a little bit about it being more relational, being more wellness oriented. Give me a sense of what are you gearing up for? What are you planning for? How is your team looking to the future?
Well, it's funny because we had a retreat last year, and my chief planning officer gave a presentation, and he spoke about Jeff Bezos. And Jeff Bezos at Amazon asked this question like, what does what's going to change? He used 10 years. What's going to change in the next 10 years?
Yeah.
And then he asked a really powerful question. He said, what's not going to change? People will still want low price, convenience, and quality, right?
Yep.
In our industry, I think people want to know that they have people that they can count on, that they can depend on, that are going to be with them through thick and thin, and aren't going to put their heads in the sand and evaporate and just go away when the tough stuff happens. So for me, that's the way we've always operated. I go back to the financial crisis, and I'll tell you a story that actually happened. I was there with Eric, my chief planning officer, and he and I were working late. And it was really interesting, Kelly, because we had the TVs on, we're watching the market go down every day. And I went to him because I was so in the weeds talking to clients all day, all night. I asked Eric, I said, so Eric, how are you doing with all this? How's everybody on the team doing? And at the time, we only had like 6 people, 7 people. I have 33 W-2 employees now,
Awesome.
full blown salaries, the whole bit. They are phenomenal.
Awesome.
So, long story short, he said, well, I'm sort of glad you asked. We're kind of worried about our jobs. And I'm like, really? That didn't even cross my mind. He said, yeah, we see people getting laid off every single day. And we're thinking, and he said, I do the financials. I see the writing on the wall. And I said, Eric, thank you so much for sharing that with me. I gathered everybody together the next day, and I shared that conversation, and I said to them, guys, everybody, I want you to know, no one is going to lose your jobs, okay? Yes, we are losing a lot of money. I have personal money I'm going to put into the business so that your salaries will be taken care of. Please don't worry about that. I'm only going to ask you one thing. And everybody's like, this is great. What do you need? And I said, we need to double down. This is the time when it really matters. I just have this feeling. And ironically, Kelly, we had just adopted eMoney and gotten all of our clients onto eMoney.
Yep.
And I said, this is the time where we really need to double down with our existing clients. I have a feeling we just have to get through this period and survive. Because when we do that, we are going to grab market share and we're going to explode. And you know what? That's exactly what we did. It was like a hockey stick. And we've been growing ever since.
That's amazing. So, it's interesting. My team is about 30 people today too, and I feel like times have changed, right? Since the pandemic maybe, and I feel like getting people to rally like you got people to rally at that time is harder today. It feels harder. Getting people to put in the time and do the work and get excited about the work and really believe in what they're doing. So give me some advice, Patty. Tell me
Oh,
tell me about some of the things that you do to keep your team cohesive and running like the machine that it is.
well, it's interesting because I will tell you that what you're referring to is culture, and we are an in the office culture. During COVID, I had the meetings at my house. We were all sitting in a humongous circle, and I just wanted to touch base with everybody to see how everybody was doing. And it was amazing what that did for our team, the
Wow.
bonding that occurred because everyone was in their homes. We set them up with printers and computers and that sort. And it was so cool because everybody was very honest. I said, "What's it like being at home?" I had several people who said, "I don't really like it. I miss everybody
Yeah.
and I don't feel as productive. Things are falling through the cracks. Sometimes I feel like I'm working even harder because I can't stand up in my cubicle and just ask a question." And I appreciated that perspective. I will tell you, with COVID, that was in February, March. By June, everybody was back in the office and has been back in the office ever since. We've got generational diversity. We've got the gender and the racial, but we have generational diversity. And that's really cool because, we've got young parents with little kids,
Wow.
and I set up the office so that they could bring their kids in during COVID and stand over their shoulders while they were at school, to make it easy for them to be productive and to recognize and have compassion for what they were going through with their families. That's what matters. They want to be recognized and appreciated for what they do. And it's very unusual for us to get through a group meeting without me crying. It's crazy, Kelly, because I am the first one to tell you I would be nothing with it without these people. They are so much smarter than I am. I am so grateful for their diligence and what they do for our clients. They're an extension of my heart. That's basically all I've done is leverage my heart and my intent and our processes.
That's amazing. I feel like the in office versus remote is a hot tug of war that happens. So you were able to get everybody on board with the idea of coming back. Was that difficult? Was it a hard decision? Like how did you work through it? No.
It wasn't really hard because I will tell you, Kelly, we have a ridiculous amount of fun here.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know what it is. I don't. It's not a hiring, requirement, but we have so many funny people, and our office. I have my office, and then we've got a big area in the black back for planning and portfolio management. And I want to sit back there with those guys because they're always laughing, cracking up, making fun of each other. You know, John Ruskin in the 1800s was a philosopher, and he said something that has been my mantra. When love and skill come together, expect a masterpiece.
Yeah.
We are just a bunch of misfits.
Yeah.
33 misfits. We're quirky. We are funny. I'm not funny, but I'm a good audience. I'm just like, have fun. Let's enjoy each other. And it's a place of unconditional love.
Yeah. I love that. I try to emulate that, Patty. I really do in building my teams. I feel like you spend the majority of your life at work.
Yeah.
You better love it and you better love the people that are around you. And I just know too many people that don't. And I don't want that. I don't want that for me. I don't want that for people I care about. I don't want that for any business that I'm a part of. So I do try to emulate that. I think it's sometimes easier said than done.
Well,
But
I think that for me, I learned early in my career that one toxic person can ruin it for everybody. Get
yes.
rid of the toxic people. It's not, I don't care who they are. I don't know, care how good they are. It's not good for the morale. It's not good for the rest of the team. There are so many good people out there. That doesn't work.
Agree.
I think it's also important to find those people who are really appreciative of the opportunity that you're providing them. I mean, look at what you've built. Look at what you're doing, Kelly. It's amazing what you're doing for your team and for the businesses, for the advisors that you work with. Oh my goodness. It's amazing for me to watch what you have done.
Oh, I appreciate that. I don't know if you remember Jason Reiser, but he was the attorney at eMoney, and he now acts as our COO, which is awesome. And I had a conversation with him this morning about like how do we make sure that we do just that? If somebody's not the right fit, that we make sure it's a quick transition out, because I feel like I've learned that the hard way in this business, that's true, because if you have the wrong person, they end up taking down all your good people, and nobody wants that. Nobody wants that. So we had that discussion this morning. How are we going to put a process in place, a 30-day check, whatever it is, to just make sure that we're making smart decisions, but we're doing them quickly?
Yes. And sometimes it doesn't bubble up right away
Right.
because they're on their best behavior, especially if you put those boundaries in first 30 days, first 90 days, but it uncovers itself over time.
Yeah.
I had that recently. I had it last year, and it's amazing when that person, because everybody else knows it and it's not fair to them,
Right.
you know?
Yep.
So, and I will personally, Kelly, I think your team would respect you so much if you made that difficult call.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I see it the second we make the changes, how everybody's morale skyrockets. So it just takes a minute. It's hard. Nobody wants to
Yeah.
fire anybody, you know?
Yeah. You know
Uh,
what? I wouldn't use the word fire, just manage them out.
yes. Yes.
Manage them out.
Yes, for sure. Okay, Patty, before we get into your don't do that, I want you to just tell me what you're most excited about. What are you most excited about in the industry, in your business, with your team? Like what's getting you up in the morning?
Well, we have a new goal. We set goals every year, and basically our goal is 5 and 5, 5 billion in 5 years. Right now, we're running at about 2.7 ish in assets under management.
Okay.
Our longer term goal is 5 and 5. Now, here's the thing. That's a big, lofty goal. And the way that I try to communicate with my team is saying, let's not focus on 5 billion. Okay. Think about climbing Mount Everest, right? The top of the peak of Mount Everest is 5 billion assets under management. Right now, all we need to do is looking down, we're at the bottom of the mountain. I'm not going to get intimidated by it. Our first goal was 1 billion. We got to base camp number 1.
Yep.
I needed to get the experts on board, the people like you, to say, how do I get to base camp number 1? And then how do I get to base camp number 2? That's where we are. Base camp number 2. We're kind of working our way up there with our strategic partners. Once we get to base camp number 3, we have to do different because the air is thinner, that it's much colder up there, and we have to try different strategies. So that's basically what I'm excited about. We're going to do it. We've been doing this goal setting process for about 10 years. We have never not hit our goals.
Awesome.
We are better together. That's what we've learned.
That's
And
amazing.
we are very confident. It's a done deal.
Oh, I have no doubt, and I'll be following along for sure. Okay, Patty. So the premise of this podcast is that we learn better from our mistakes than our wins. For sure, hands down. I've had so many great people that I've gotten to learn from on the Don't Do That podcast, things that I hope to not step in along the way because they were able to shine a light on it. So tell us, Patty, what are we not doing today?
Okay, here's what I would suggest to everybody listening to this show. Stop kidding yourself. And by that, I mean, and I can say that because I was kidding myself all along. And it wasn't until last year, I'm going to show you something, a bracelet that I have. The beginning of last year, we had, a wholesaler in. I'm big on letting wholesalers come in because we all learned from them.
Yep.
And we learned something new from this wholesaler. And they got our team together and said, pick a word. Pick one word that is your mantra for the year. And so I was talking with one of my colleagues and I was saying, yeah, this is a great idea. Let's do it. Let's all pick our word. And this colleague said, Patty, I think your word should be clarity. And I'm like, really? Tell me more about that. And she said, when people ask you about your retirement, and I'm thinking, okay, all right, I've got these lines in the middle of my face, et cetera. I'm kidding myself that I'm not getting older. I got news for everybody listening. You're going to get older and you're going to get to that point where there's going to be a transition. So when people ask me, Patti, what are your plans? When are you going to retire? I would always say something to the effect of, oh, I love what I do, which is true. They're going to take me out feet first, which is probably true. The problem is that if that were to happen, the value of this business would plummet. So I've stopped kidding myself, and I now have a bracelet that says clarity. And what I did and this is a work in progress, by the way, I'm a work in progress. So just so you know, calling the kettle black, I went to a member of my team and said, if I got hit by the bus, you would be the person that I would want to step in my shoes. Would that be okay with you? You would be well taken care of. Your family would be well taken care of. And Eric said, I would be honored, but don't let anything happen to you. Right.
Right.
So that was taken care of. I got his permission. Then I announced it to my team. Oh my goodness, Kelly, you could just feel this sigh of relief. Oh, now we know if something happens to Patti, things would transition seamlessly. And then I did one other thing that was really interesting. I sent a letter to all of our clients. I have been writing a personal letter to our clients every 90 days for 35 years. These letters are typically warm and fuzzy because I am sort of that way, but they're really with good content. They're about the portfolio, the economy, the new tax law. There's substance in these letters. My quarterly letter was really about this decision that I had made regarding transition if something happened to me. And I got more feedback from that letter. One person sent me an email and he said, Patti, I've had several advisors before coming to Key Financial. Never in my life have I ever gotten a letter like the one you just sent to my wife and I about transition if something happened to you. It was so transparent and so honest, and I want you to know how much we appreciated it. And we are so impressed with, your willingness to do that for us. It was a really cool moment for me as the advisor because it was kind of risky. I wasn't sure how it would be received. I didn't want people to think that I was going to retire because I don't really want to retire. But, I think the thing that, we need to stop kidding ourselves is that, we all hear about businesses, wealth managers being sold to private equity, getting 10 to 20 times EBITDA, et cetera. But let's face it, to get those kind of numbers, you have to have a business that can run without yourself. And organically, I've been doing that and have become less and less relevant to the ongoing, business of Key Financial. But I think that there are some really interesting statistics, and I'm going to share something with you. This is a book that I received as a result of a course that I took because I really thought about it. I thought, I've done a terrible job planning for if I'm not here. And that's not fair to my employees and it's not fair to my clients. So there's a designation called the Certified Exit Planning Advisor, or CEPA. Now, personally, I hate that name, exit planning, because it sounds like death. I wish there was a different word for it, but it's really not about exit planning. It's like an MBA of business, on business management. It's like drinking from a fire hose. It is a crazy course. And I will tell you that we're still in the process of implementing some of the ideas. So again, I'm doing it with everybody else that I'm recommending it to, right? The first, as with anything, is you want to get a baseline. We have to get a business valuation, and they teach you in the course how to get a real business, valuation. And part of that is scoring yourself and having outside parties score ourselves based on things like the growth trajectory. What's really interesting? Only 20 to 30% of businesses that go on the market for sale actually get sold. And they get sold for a lot less than the business owner thought because they hadn't implemented this value acceleration methodology that they talk about in the book, Walking to Destiny. So I would highly encourage people to go out, look into the CEPA program, not necessarily because you're going to exit, but because you want to learn how to manage an ongoing entity and be very real about what the value of your business is. I was really surprised, by the way, to learn like we have doubled twice in 10 years. It's been like this hockey stick growth at Key Financial. Only 20% of a business valuation has to do with your growth. The rest of it has to do with more intangible things. They call it the 4 C's. And in preparation, in the course, they also talk about the 3 legs of the stool. The 3 legs of the stool are personal, business, and financial. Because all too often, business owners get to that point where they're ready to sign on the dotted line and then they pull back because they haven't really assessed who am I going to be after this thing is gone? What am I going to do with my life? And they sabotage the deal, whether they realize it or not, subconsciously, consciously, and it doesn't get sold. So I would say for people who are listening, don't do that. Be very real. Okay. Think about what your business is all about. Recognize what it is that buyers would be interested in. Sure, it's great that you grew, fine and dandy, but what exactly are they buying? Because they didn't own it then. They're buying the future ability to grow. What have you done to set that up? Structurally, what are your processes? Who are your people? Who's your market? What's your marketing, by the way? How are you getting the message out, right? Those are intangibles, what they refer to as the 4 C's. That's really, really important. And you got to be real. And I will tell you, going through the course, and I'm still going through it, they use this, and I should tell you, Kelly, this is not something that is, you know, an idea, whatever. This is a proven methodology started at Price Waterhouse.
Yeah.
It is now a program that financial advisors like all of us can take. Business owners, you're a business owner, take the CEPA, read the book. If you're like me, you're going to be totally overwhelmed. I finally had to get my chief operating officer and Eric to take the course also. And the 3 of us are now taking steps to go through the methodology, go through the gating system that they've set up and follow it to the letter. Because once we do, we'll be able to help others do it as well.
That's amazing.
You know what's really interesting? This is not, and I should probably be clear about that.
Yeah.
This is not about Patti Brennan exiting the business at all. This is actually about managing Key Financial in a way so that, they talk about business, personal, and financial readiness so that it's ready for whatever might come down the path.
All right, everybody that's listening, you heard it here. Patty's don't do that is to stop kidding yourself about the future of your business, about your own aging process, about retirement, about succession, about putting your business in a position to succeed beyond your time in it.
Exactly. And Kelly, it is not necessarily that you're exiting the business. You could do this today and you'll have a great business, right? It's business management strategy, started at Price Waterhouse. It is now a separate program. I learned so much. It is almost overwhelming. Here's the point.
Okay.
It is an undeniable fact that your business is going to change hands at some point. Let's face that fact. Let's stop kidding ourselves. Whether we're here, and we all hope, right? Hope is not a strategy. We hope that we will be able to control the timeline and the terms. But let's face it, most business owners can't.
Yeah.
So let's take the steps using a proven methodology that's been used for thousands of businesses over the years to set yourself up so that you're ready for whatever might come down the pike.
Yeah. I mean, the most important part of that is that your clients are in good hands and you can tell them, with really with clarity, right, Patty, that they're going to be fine long after
Yes,
you've moved on. Yeah,
exactly.
I think
And I'm
that's
also very real with clients. I basically say, look, when I took you on as a client, in my mind, I was making a promise. And that promise is we're going to be here for the rest of your lives through thick and thin. Now, I can't promise that I'm going to be the person that's going to be here, but I can promise you the key financial, this business that started in my laundry room
oh,
will be here for you and your family through thick and thin.
love it. Love it. And we wish that all financial advisors in this industry cared as much. So if you do, I implore you to take Patty's advice. Stop kidding yourself. Grab the book. Think about your business in terms of what does the future look like, maybe even without you in it. I know it's a hard thing and nobody wants to think about that, but it's inevitable, right? Like it truly is inevitable.
And Kelly, can I give a little bit of a tidbit?
Yeah.
Hi. You know, here's the thing. I've learned over the years that every human being on earth, it doesn't matter where you live, what country you're from, everybody's tuned into one radio station. You know what it is?
What?
WIFM. What's in it for me? So for those of you who are watching and listening, here's what's in it for you. Remember I started out saying 5 and 5? When you set a big lofty goal like that, I don't know how we're going to get there. We're going to figure it out and tweak along the way. But I will tell you that it was clear to me and my team that doing what we had been doing is not going to get us there. You just run the numbers and what have you. So we got to do different. So what's different? Well, here's the thing. When businesses are sold, they're not sold for a couple $1,000,000. It's 50 million. It's 100 million.
Yeah.
So that could accelerate our progress towards our goal. So as I'm learning how to do this for my own business, I can help other businesses as well.
Right.
And the thing about this whole thing that I've learned through the program is that most financial advisors do this after the business is sold. And when business owners are surveyed after they've sold their business, they're miserable. The statistics are crazy. Like 90% of business owners wish they hadn't sold.
Wow.
What's wrong with that picture? It's because they weren't ready personally.
Yep.
It's because we as advisors don't work with the client and the family until after the business has sold. What they do in this program is teach us that there's 3 legs of the stool, and you've got to get the business owner and their family ready as part of this process. So it's business, it's the owner readiness, it's business readiness, and it's financial readiness. Running the numbers. What do they need to get out of the business to be able to stop working? Things of that nature, things that we do naturally, but we're too hyper focused on that and not as well focused on the softer side of what are you going to do every day? What's
Yeah.
it going to feel like? And that's why they're miserable. So it's a great program. Again, I'm in the middle of it. The first thing is to get the baseline. We're getting our baseline as we speak.
I love it. That's amazing. I would say that's certainly something to look forward to. And Patty, such great advice for everybody that's listening. Everybody, don't kid yourselves. Be
Yes.
prepared for this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Patty, I am so happy to see you. I hope that we don't wait as long again next time. I might show up on your doorstep at your office here soon.
Please do.
I might. And I'm so appreciative of everything that you shared with our audience today. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you, Kelly. And I would be happy to come back after we've gone through the entire
Yes.
process, the gating, and give you the outcome.
Awesome. Let's do it.
All right. Take
Thanks,
care.
Patty. Bye.
Thanks.
Thanks so much for tuning in. If you enjoyed today's show, subscribe to be notified when new episodes become available. And please consider giving us a 5-star review on Apple or Spotify. This podcast is sponsored by Intentionally, a financial services growth engine design consultancy and agency. If you want to learn more, please email me at kelly@growintentionally.com. Thank you again for listening, and check back to hear what we're not doing next.
The information covered and posted represents the views and opinions of the guest and does not necessarily represent the views or opinions of Kelly Waltrich. The content has been made available for informational and educational purposes only.